Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Adams Brothers podcast on this beautiful, rainy Wednesday here in South Florida. It's been raining here all day, and it's cold here to us South Floridians that live here.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know what cold is until we look at other parts of the state. But welcome back to the Adams Brothers podcast. We're joined here this evening with our guest for this evening, Miss Jumorrow Terra Poitier, born and raised right here in exit 42 Deerfield Beach. We really value her opinion on this podcast, and she's always welcome to come on this podcast anytime she wants. So, Jumorrow Terra Poitier, welcome back to the Adams Brothers podcast.
I'm always happy to be back. Thank you for
Yes.
having me. Appreciate you, brother, so much for hanging in there. You know what I'm saying? We perish because of lack of knowledge, and I thank you guys for creating this platform. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do in this community. It doesn't go unnoticed. That's why we have you on our podcast. Because again,
Yes.
like I just said, we value your opinion, and you have knowledge in a lot of different areas, and we really value your opinion on here. And like I said, you're welcome to come back on this podcast anytime you want. You have our number, and all you have to do is call us, and we'll get you in here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, like I just said, okay, go ahead.
No. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, because I do want to use this time to, plug my event that I have coming up. Right. So, first of all, let me just say, for those who don't know, we are in the month of January, and January is designated for Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month nationally, like everywhere. January is the month that is set aside to raise awareness about human trafficking, educate about human trafficking, facilitate and host events to encourage prevention about human trafficking, and helping and giving people tools to help keeping their community, but not just their community, but their children safe, right? So in January, there are a lot of human trafficking events going on, prevention events. And so every January, as you know, I host 2 events. So I always host a youth summit, and I always host a community awareness event. And so my youth summit was about 2 weeks ago. It was on the 11th. And I was so blessed to be able to partner with the city of Deerfield Beach. I mean, I got hats off to the city of Deerfield Beach. I really got to recognize them, because they donated their center, the community center, to me in kind, right?
Yes.
And allowed us to come in for both of these events. So on January 11th, we hosted a youth summit, and what we did is that we focused on graduating high school seniors in Broward County, right? And so we brought in a survivor of human trafficking, a young lady who was groomed online and was trafficked. We brought her in, and then we brought in a person from the FBI task force. And so what we did that day was we took that opportunity to train our young people who are transitioning from high school to college. 18 does not make you grown, especially in your mind. They're not adults mentally. They're just not, okay? I know what it says on the books when you get 18, but in their mind, they're not. So we were just so grateful to have the opportunity to bring people in to educate, talk to, engage, dialogue with our young people. And on top of that, give them tools and talk to them about how to keep themselves safe online and how to utilize and navigate social media, right? And the focus of the event, the youth summit, was focused, not finessed, right? Because a lot of young people, boys and girls, and it was open to boys and girls. We know a lot of our young people, they get so flattered they can't focus.
Yeah.
They get so flattered they cannot focus, especially those young people who are not used to being validated by anybody, right? So if they're not getting it at home, and if a joker in the street give it to them, right, then it's going to put them in a position where they can become victimized. So
low self-esteem.
Well, it's not even like low self-esteem plays a part.
You're right.
And there's a lot of generational trauma and dysfunction that plays a part in that too, right? So we were able to bring in some people that were able to give them some amazing tools, talk about some very serious stuff. And the best part about it is every young person that left that workshop left there with a brand new Dell computer and a wireless printer.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah. So
wow.
And we fed them good. My parents catered, so they ate good. So they ate good. So that was the youth summit. So this Saturday, the 25th, January 25th, we are going to be back at the Johnny L. Tigner Community Center. Again, shout out to the city of Deerfield Beach, Leandro Barbosa, who has been working very closely with me to make sure this event is successful. We're going to be back there for our community event. And the title and the theme of this Saturday event, guys, is I'm somebody, somebody. I'm somebody, somebody. So not only are we going to be talking about human trafficking, sexual exploitation, sex trafficking of children, right? And educating the community, we're also going to be talking about and shining a light on the issue of our Black and brown missing folks that are not getting the same response, outrage, and media attention that other folks get when they go missing.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about that. And we have the esteemed honor. I was able to connect. I don't know if you guys saw the documentary on HBO. It's called Black and Missing.
Yes.
But we have the esteemed honor, and I was able to get in touch with Natalie Wilson. She's actually one of the co-founders of Black and Missing. She's one of the stars of the documentary, and she will be here Saturday with us in the city of Deerfield. She is our keynote speaker. So we are very happy about that, right? So we're going to be talking to the community about not just human trafficking, not just sex trafficking, not just sexual exploitation of children, but how that marries and how that intertwines with when our young people, when our Black people go missing, right? Boys and girls, men and women. And what happens is that because there is a thought process, right? That certain people's lives matter more than others, right?
Right.
Our Black and brown people do not get the same attention. And I'm not making that up.
No,
that's true.
That's true.
It's true.
I'm not making that up. I'm not
race baiting or anything.
That's
the truth.
I'm not some bitter Black woman. I'm not.
It's a fact, though. It's a fact.
It's a fact, right? Our kids, our Black people, our Black and brown people, we don't get the Amber Alerts. We don't get them like other people get them, and that's a fact. And so, and if it wasn't a fact, there would not be a need for an organization for Black and Missing to exist, right? So if everybody was getting the same attention, right, you wouldn't have to create additional things to address a certain need. Let me give you an example. The Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Movement. If everybody was being treated the same, we wouldn't need the Civil Rights Movement, right?
No.
Exactly. So I'm not making it up, right?
No.
Our Black and brown humans do not get the same respect, response, outrage, and media attention that others get. And so I think it's really important for us to have the conversation and to talk about it, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it may be for some people offensive. But why does my safety offend you? If my safety of my livelihood offends you, then that's a problem, right? So me having a conversation about how I'm not respected, how my safety isn't made a priority, then I'm not the problem. You're the problem, right? So the event starts at 11 o'clock, guys, 11 a.m., 11 to 3. at the Johnny L. Tigner Community Center. We will have Picks Roasted Corn and More as a vendor for the food truck. So y'all come out. They're going to be servicing the community. Come out and buy from them. I'm going to have other resource information vendors there. I'm going to have Coast to Coast Legal Aid in the house. I'm going to have Flight Center in the house. I'm going to have the Children's Service Council in the house. I'm going to have Hosanna for Youth in the house. I'm going to have Grace Schools in the house. I have about 9 or 10 vendors in the house, right? Resource vendors, people that are going to be there with very resourceful, tangible and useful information that the community can utilize. Okay. Right. We're going to have raffles. We're going to be talking specifically about, the hard stuff, trafficking and sexual exploitation and, what's happening when people go missing. Right. And, when people don't, when they don't return, what does that mean? Right. What does that mean? And so we're going to be talking about all of that. One particular case we're going to be talking about. Do you guys know Sophie Reeder, who Sophie Reeder is?
I don't.
Yeah, I haven't heard of her name. It don't strike a note to me.
Sophie Reeder is a 15-year-old biracial child who went missing in Fort Lauderdale. Sophie's been gone about 7 years. And Sophie is biracial. Sophie's mom is Black and Sophie's dad is white. Sophie left her house 7 years ago. Nobody knew where she was going. She was 15 years old, but she left the candle burning in her room. So we know that she had every intention on returning.
Right. Yeah. Right.
She's never been seen again. Right. Why don't you guys know who this kid is?
I've never heard of her name before.
Why don't you know who she is?
Because they don't get
like
we don't get the
like
coverage.
We were talking about earlier, the coverage we don't get that. We get the coverage of the Natalie Holloways and other people like that.
And the Gabby Petitos and all those, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Sophie's aunt reached out to me. She found out about the event. She and I have been communicating. So she's going to be flying in to the event on Saturday. So she will be there and we are going to be talking about Sophie's case, bringing attention to Sophie's case because it's been 7 years. And so, you're thinking, okay, the inevitable has happened, right? This child was 15 years old when she went missing. The family is very upset about how it was handled. The case was handled. That's not for me to speak on because that's not my child, but the aunt will be here.
Right. We would love to have her on our podcast.
The aunt will be here.
That connection, please.
Yeah. And I'm going to give her an opportunity. She's going to have time on Saturday. She's going to be talking about her niece. Because I don't want people to forget about this child. Right. And that's the reason why I named this event and I themed this event. I'm somebody, because we all matter. We matter. We all matter. Right. And so Sophie's aunt will be here with us on Saturday and we'll be talking about her niece's case and the fact that her niece is still missing.
Who's handling that?
She vanished. 15-year-old children just don't vanish.
Right.
I wish I would have knew about that case, Miss Poitier. We would have been blasting that. I feel embarrassed, really, that I don't. I'm quite sure I remember the name, but we come across so many cases, and I'm glad you bringing this to light because she's right from here, right?
Who's handling the case? Is it the Fort Lauderdale Police or Broward Sheriff's Office? Fort Lauderdale Police.
And I'm going to let her aunt talk about her experience with law enforcement.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna and she's very vocal. So
I'm sure it's the same. It's the same that we got when our sister Angela was killed. The transparency wasn't. It just weren't there. Sometimes, the ball was dropped along the way, and the case was closed without our knowledge, and when we called, they didn't call us back. So yeah, we understand what she's going through.
Yeah. And I definitely want to talk to her.
Yeah, she'll be here
after your event. I definitely want to get her.
Yeah,
on.
And if they let you guys set up at the event, I have no objection to that. Okay. So you can, do what you do. I have no objection to that. So as I stated, she reached out to me. She and I have been communicating a lot. She has informed me of a lot about the case, a lot that people don't know that happened, a lot that transpired that I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what? Yeah. So I said to her, I am going to create a safe space here for you to talk about the fact that your niece left home at 15 with a candle burning in her room and has never been seen again. Has never been seen again. And 15-year-old children, I'm sorry, I don't care what nobody says, they just don't disappear. Now, that segues, and she does think, and we all believe, because based on the case and based on what we believe that Sophie was a human trafficking victim, without a shadow of a doubt. We based on everything, we know that, right? And what we're seeing now, guys, with a lot of young people is, our young people, our kids are targeted at an exponential rate. And I put a link in the chat, and this link in the chat is I
saw it.
Like a short. This was given to me by Natalie from Black and Missing.
Right.
So this is about two Black girls that went missing. One in DeKalb, one in DeKalb in Georgia, and I think another one was in Minneapolis. Two Black girls went missing, and the response, just the same gateway. When I say gateway, I'm talking about the method, right? Social media is really sucking the life out of a lot of our young people. So a lot of these young people are being groomed online, guys. They're being groomed online.
Right.
And for some reason, parents have this insane thought process that their kids tell them everything. I don't know where they get this thought process from, that they think for whatever reason their kids tell them everything. But if they were to go and look at their kids' electronic devices and see the conversations that they're having,
right?
Yeah,
and who they're having these conversations with, it will blow their freaking minds.
Not only that, too, I work out at a park, and the little young girls, they come out there every day and they meet the little young guys and the older guys out at the park, and a lot of that starts right out in public, right in front of your eyes, and I'm always thinking, a lot of this stuff, I wonder, do their parents even know that they're out here,
Exactly.
And and I see it and I watch it all the time, and I take little notes and everything, because I'm trying, like I was saying off camera, I'm trying to train my eye to see these, notice human trafficking, or maybe someone that's trying to be picked up, or I'm trying to train my eye to see that, and with the help of you, I'm sure I get there.
Yeah, and our young girls are being preyed upon. And listen, this isn't new. The dope boys was doing it a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's not new. The difference is though, there's a difference between trafficking and being sexually exploited. So when you're talking about trafficking, you're talking about somebody profiting off of the sexual activity of the child. When you're talking about the sexual exploitation component, you're talking about an adult taking advantage of a child sexually, right? Not necessarily profiting off of it in any form or fashion, but just having an inappropriate sexual relationship, exploiting that child sexually. because that child is younger, their child is more naive. The child is more subjected to being controlled, right? So you're taking advantage of the child's age. You're taking advantage of the child's home life, whether there's a dad in the house or not a dad in the house, or the mom working all the time. You know what I'm saying? Or their family dysfunction. So you're taking advantage of these vulnerabilities, right? So trafficking isn't always what people think it is, right? So just because you see a young girl dating a much older guy, that doesn't always mean that that child is being trafficked, but that does mean that that child is being sexually exploited,
right?
Which is also a crime.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is also a crime.
It happened a lot back in our day. You know, it happened a lot back in our day. It was more. I think it was more accepted, or they just turned a blind eye to it back then. But as time went on, like what went on back then could never go on today.
You'll be in jail now.
You'll be a sexual
offender. We saw plenty of days. We saw
predator.
In high school, we used to see the guys out of school come there picking the girls up at lunchtime, because we were able to go off campus back when I was still in school in 1984. So we saw it all the time back then.
Right.
And when I'm teaching and I'm training and I'm presenting, you know, I talk a lot about that culture, because that's culture. That's culture. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, Broward County is one county, but Broward County has a myriad of different cultures. You know, you live in Sealand, you live in on Nike Way, you live in Collier City, you live in you live in the Franklins, you live in the Washingtons. There are different cultures in those different neighborhoods.
It is.
Those different cultures in those different neighborhoods. So just because you know everybody black, right? You know, you can't just think that just because everybody black, everybody's operating in the same vein or thinking the same way, right? So when going back to what you guys just said about when we were in high school, how the dope boys would come pick up the young girls, and you know that's just the way it is. Because that was the culture of the neighborhood. That was the culture. I had a young lady has a song, and in one of her bars, she says the dope boys weren't pedophiles as long as they was getting the bag.
They were paying the bills back in those days, paying the mom bills and the car notes and everything.
And so they still do it now.
They turned a blind eye to it.
And you can now, if you sit down and you look at that thing, because we sit down now and we're looking at this thing, and you sit down and you look at it, because now what's happening is, this is the crazy part. Check this out though. Let me tell you how generational trauma really exists. So we're talking about the dope boys, right? Picking up the young girls, right? In school, right? Because what more than likely was happening was, and what was happening, not more than likely, what was happening, the dope boys was taking care of bills in the house. So the mamas didn't care, right? Because the mamas was profiting off of the sexual activity of the children, which would make them traffickers. When you look at it, right?
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but they were definitely
it happened just like you just explained it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're 14, 15-year-old is dating a 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And you know this man, this is a grown man, right? But he's shooting you a couple of dollars. Oh, hey, Miss Such and Such. Oh, pay your light bill, Miss Such and Such. Pay and you know this man is involved sexually with your minor child. What are you doing? Are you not worse than a pimp? Are you not pimping your child?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? But see, back then, when you're like when you're in it, you don't see it when you're in it.
No.
And that's why we have a lot. When we're sitting down and we're looking at and we're analyzing this thing, and a lot of those young girls who were in it, who were dating those dope boys, they now have kids, right? And now their children are involved in these same relationships, and they don't see the problem. You see how it's generational. You see how that works?
Right. Oh yeah.
So how do I fight that?
I know how I fought it when my daughter was 14 and this 19-year-old was trying to talk to her. I went down there and I told him, I said, look, you know, we're gonna have a problem if you keep trying to talk to her. And you know, once I talked to him, he stopped. But no, I wasn't gonna allow that. No, because I saw it during my time, so I was not gonna allow that kind of stuff. And I think, Mr. Poitier, the parents just got to be more mindful of what's going on. And like you say, they need to check their kids' electronic devices because that holds the key to a lot of things. I watched this show called "Text Me When You Get Home" on, I believe it's on Discovery, and I watched that, and I watched the cases of human trafficking and the cases of young Black women and white women, and all just meet these older people a lot of times in stores, the gas stations, and a lot of times, a lot of the cases they go for, the guys are like, can you get me some weed or something, or can you get me some drugs? And the girls go there figuring they're gonna make a little money by taking them that, and the guys end up killing the women. And it's sad to watch that show. If you ever get a chance, it's called "Text Me When You Get Home." But I don't want to take you off your train of thoughts. I just
no. That's fine. I think people like need to. That's something people need to watch. But going back to what you said when you approached the guy, how blessed was your daughter to have a daddy?
Oh yeah.
And that's a problem because a lot of the dads aren't in the home right now because growing up, again, I'm taking my brother and I. We grew up in the house with our parents, both of our parents still living right now today, but we had that structure. We had discipline. We had a grandmother live next door and an uncle that would slap your head around the block, and we had another set of grandparents a quarter mile away. So we had
a foundation.
We had that foundation, and we had that
structure.
That mom and dad, the parents in the house. So again, we weren't exposed to a lot of that stuff, but some of our friends were, you know.
Right.
Because if you think back, a lot of your friends, and then and it's like I came up with my parents in the house, right?
Right.
And I'm so grateful now, and I think we can relate to each other because I mean, when I say this, I don't want to speak for you guys, but what I say all the time now that back in the day, I used to think my mama was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like
we did too.
I couldn't do nothing, couldn't go nowhere. Like I'm like, this lady is really crazy. But now that I'm at this big old age and doing the work that I do and seeing all of the horrible things that I see on a regular basis, man, I'm so grateful for my mama and my daddy. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They literally saved my life.
Yeah.
My parents saved my life.
We have a question from Dr. Sherman Morris. Not that you get too far. He's a question from Ms. Porter. What are the primary factors that put teens in South Florida at a higher risk of becoming trafficking victims?
Okay,
Dr. Sherman Morris.
So that's a great question. So, and before I answer that question, let me just say the trafficking does not look the same everywhere. You were talking about your niece or your cousin in Houston, in Texas.
Yes.
Trafficking looks different in Texas than it does in Florida. Right? So when you're talking about trafficking in Florida, one, you have to consider the geographical makeup of Florida, right? So sex trafficking doesn't drive trafficking in Florida. Labor trafficking does, because there's so many more avenues to exploit people via labor than there are sex. Right.
And would one be like the adult clubs?
So
like the adult clubs,
when we're talking about strip clubs, yes, that is a pathway. That is a method in which people are trafficked, right? IMBs. When you hear me say IMBs, I'm talking about illicit massage businesses.
Okay.
These quote unquote massage parlors, these spas that you got to get buzzed into. That the windows are blacked out. Like, why I gotta get buzzed in to get a massage? That just don't make sense to me, right? So we're talking about strip clubs, we're talking about IMBs, right? When we're talking about trafficking. But the pathway, the gateway now is social media. It's online. It's these apps. It's Mocha Space. It's Omegle. It's IG is a huge thing. TikTok is a huge problem.
And that was one of my questions I had written down about the social media, because these kids, they have fake accounts, and they don't go on there and put an account with their picture on it. They have these fake accounts with a cat on there, or a dog, or a flower, or something on there.
And so
it's hard to track it,
And so do the predators, right?
Yes.
Like there's an app out there there's a very popular app called the Calculator app, right? It looks like a calculator.
I heard of that.
But it's not a calculator. It's a secret vault.
I heard of that.
Right? And I tell parents all the time, you guys are paying for these phones.
Yeah.
I don't understand why y'all feel like y'all cannot go through these phones when y'all get ready. Like, what? I don't understand.
They want to be the friends of their kids. That's why they want to be the kids' friend.
I don't get it. Yeah. But I tell parents all the time, because every smartphone, whether it's a iPhone, or God help you if you have an Android, but either way, every smartphone comes with a calculator app on there.
Really?
Now, if your child has two calculator apps on their phone,
right,
one of them is not a calculator.
That's good information. I heard you say that before, but I'm listening more now that you say that.
Okay, because the calculator app that a lot of kids are using and downloading, it's a vault. So if you have videos and pictures and conversations and things that you don't want anybody to know about or see, you have that app gives you the ability to hide that in that app. So it's a vault. It's a vault. It looks like a calculator.
Right.
So if you look it on the phone, you'll think it was a calculator.
Right.
So if they got two calculator apps on their phone, there's a red flag right there.
Right.
Right. And so, and to answer Mr. Morris's question, in Broward County, so I can talk about Broward County because that's where I live. That's where I operate. That's where the majority of my work is done. And Miami-Dade and Palm Beach and, Orlando and Hillsborough County, we pretty much see a lot of the same things where social media has become our vice. And social media has become very hard for us to track because, like I tell my kids when I'm doing my educational workshops with them, people can be whoever they want to be behind a computer screen. So it's really hard. And then you have predators. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all have predators that are reaching out to your kids online, chatting with your kids online, purchasing encrypted dataware where and sending it to your kids to upload on their computer. So when your child goes missing, their laptop is encrypted. Okay, and it with malware. I don't want to say malware, but data that this program that it's hard to crack.
Right.
Because the first thing that happens when a kid goes missing and it's reported and they do something about it, they're going to come and they're going to get the laptop. They're going to get the phone. They're going to check IP addresses. They're going to see who the kid has been talking to. They're going to see, what interaction has been had. That's the first thing they're going to do, right? I can tell you that, right? But when you have these predators that know that, and they're talking to your kids online, and they're gaining your kids' trust, and they're communicating with your children on a regular basis, right? And they convince your children that it's best that nobody knows that they're communicating with them. They're going to pay for this encryption to be put on their computer and to send it to them. And they're going to teach them and show them how to upload it on their computer.
Right.
There's one of those cases. In the link that I put in the chat. Yes. That's what happened with one of those cases.
And we put the link in the comment section as well.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So For the people out there watching, you can go look at it.
And so social media has become a huge problem. Another thing that I want to talk to you guys about, because it's 6:43 and I know you guys have an hour, 6:43, is sextortion. Sextortion is on the rise. Do you guys know what sextortion is?
Say that again, Miss Poitier.
Sextortion.
Sextortion.
Is that the one where you send nude pictures and the girl might send their boyfriends or whoever nude pictures and they use that to extort money out of them or whatever? Is that what it is? I know I heard of it before.
Yeah, but listen, you said girlfriends, but what you need to know is that they're targeting boys now.
Okay.
So sextortion can happen a couple of ways.
Yeah.
So Nigerians are really, really heavy dabbing into this really heavy, right? And they're targeting boys, right? But you do have, it happens to boys and girls literally on the same level, right? But our boys, when you're talking about our boys, you know where a lot of our boys are being targeted?
Where?
On that Discord app, those gaming apps.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that is the perfect place for them.
People think that boys are safer than girls. I don't know why y'all think that. Boys are not safer than girls.
Yeah.
Right.
Predators want boys just as much as they want girls. Your boys are no more safer than your girls are safe, right?
Oh yeah.
Discord is a gaming app. But it's just not for gaming. Predators go into Discord, meet your boys, pretend to be gamers, or they will send a bottom or send a decoy or pretend to be a female. Meet your boys to pretend to be a female to finesse your boys.
Right.
Convince your boys to send. They'll send some fake nude photo of themselves in a female. They're not, and it's not a female. It's some dude off in Nigeria.
Yep.
Yeah.
See that all the time. Right? Yep.
They'll find a nude picture and send it to your son in the gaming app. Convince your son to send a nude picture of himself or a body part or whatever. Or what they're doing now is they'll just ask for a picture, and then they'll take your son's face, your nephew's face, and put it on a naked body, a screen. What do you call it? Photoshop it.
Right.
Right. And tell them, okay, well, I'm going to post these pictures. I'm going to release these pictures unless you pay me. Do you guys know, not last year, but the year before, according to the FBI, 17 young boys between Broward and Dade County committed suicide because of sextortion?
Didn't know that.
I can believe that.
Did not know that.
Because they never stop. Once I need you to send me $500. I need you to send me $600. I need you to send me $1,000. You got kids going into their parents' bank accounts, stealing money to pay these extorters off to keep these pictures from being released. Right. You have girls falling prey to sex trafficking because they're online communicating with these people. They're getting finessed out of nude photos with themselves. Okay, now if you don't do more, or if you don't meet me here, if you don't perform these sex acts with with this certain amount of people, then I'm going to release these photos. You've already told me where your parents work. You told me what church you go to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print these photos out. And when your family shows up to church on Sunday, all they're going to see is these naked photos of you. Unless you do this, unless you do this, unless you do this, right? So sextortion is a huge problem with young people, not just in Florida, but in Broward County. And you have people unaliving themselves, right? Because they don't know what to do, right? And you have young people being blackmailed into human trafficking because they've met a predator online, somebody that sought them out. Because, you know, kids get online and they start griping about how horrible their parents are in their home life and all this and all that, right? And then you have predators in the background waiting and watching, right? For an opportunity to say, hey, I can make your life a whole lot better. Why are your parents so this and why your parents are so that, right? Or your parents are struggling financially. I can help out, right?
Right.
Or you have the predators that roam the student unions at the colleges, right?
Yes.
And they want to know who's struggling to stay in school.
Yeah.
We have another comment. Dr. Mars says, could you outline some less obvious warning signs or indicators that a teen might be at risk or already involved?
Well, sometimes their friend circle will change.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll start hanging out with people that normally they wouldn't hang out with, that just don't meet their personality. Sometimes they will start cutting themselves. And if a kid is always if they start wearing long sleeves all the time, all of a sudden, a lot, even when it's hot or whatever, and their mood change, they seem depressed. Sometimes that can signify cutting. All of a sudden, everything is B16 confidential, right? Everything's a secret. If they have more than one phone, you bought one phone. Where did you get this other phone from? Okay, right? You coming in the house. Where you get this purse from? Where you get that necklace from? Who bought you them shoes? Where you get them Jordans from? Where you know what I'm saying? Things that you didn't buy.
Right.
Where are you getting this stuff from? Right? Who's paying for you to get your nails done? Who's paying for you to get your hair done? Who's paying for you to get lashes? Right? You know what I'm saying? Who are, again, these new friends, right? Skipping school sometimes is a factor. Not always a factor, because we know traffickers will send them to school to recruit. Right?
Yes.
Things like that. Sometimes your child you might start seeing unexplained bruises on your child. What happened to your arm? What is that bruise on your leg? You know what I'm saying? And then that constant, oh, I fell, that constant this and constant that. If you got a bruise every so often, I'm seeing a bruise on my child's arm or bruise on my child's leg. And every time you turn around, oh, you fell, you bumped into this, knowing that I don't have a clumsy child. You know what I'm saying? When you see the red flags, you need to address the red flags.
Right.
I mean, if you remember back during our time, I remember my mom knew actually how much money all of us had, because it was so many of us. She knew she wasn't giving out that much. So if you came home with anything, I mean, I don't care how minute it was, my mom was very noticeable. She would be able to pick that out. She knew if she saw my sisters with something, she would ask them,
right,
where did you get that from? She would ask any of us. I hope the parents go back, Miss Poitier, to that era, to go back to asking those same questions that was asked of us and our sisters back during that time.
You have to take the locks off the doors. I mean,
the locks on the doors.
When my daughters were and my kids were growing up, they're there with me. They didn't have locks on the door, even though they were girls. I wouldn't walk in on them, but you in my house, you have privacy to a certain extent, when you're in the bathroom or changing your clothes. But when you in there just watching TV or whatever, I'm gonna know what you're doing in this house.
Right. Correct. Right.
So
exactly.
I'm trying to better. I'm trying to help educate myself. Like if I'm out in public, and I'm using myself as an example, how could I identify for a person who is just trying to learn about human trafficking? How could I help educate myself to notice or to see some of these things out in public? How could you help me to be more aware of human trafficking? Like if I'm just walking up and down the street, or I'm walking out through the park or something, exercising, and it may be because they meet everywhere. They meet at the park. They anyway. How could you help me?
So that's a good question. That's a hard question. That's a broad question because when you're out, right? And I tell people all the time, when you're out, you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you're looking for, right?
Right.
And I tell people all the time, if something doesn't seem right, you just report it, right? So like I had a person ask me the same question, Dara, that you asked me, and they were like, well, I was at a park and I saw this young girl talking to this older guy, and the way that he knew it wasn't her father because of the way they were engaging, because
body
the
language.
young lady was kind of flirty, a little bit with him, paying attention to the body language. And she was a young girl, and there's this older guy, and she was just very giddy and very flirty and things like that. So you automatically know, right? This man is not connected to this child in a healthy way, right? So that is something that I'm just giving you an example. That is something that you might want to report. I don't encourage anybody. I teach bystander safety. I don't encourage people to approach situations without first gauging and the area for safety, because your safety is a priority, right? So I don't encourage people to approach. There is always, when you have someone that if you see, I've had this example where someone has been out and they were at a restaurant, and I'm giving you like live examples. And this was a young girl who was with this person, and this girl kept making eye contact with this lady, with this chick, right? She kept making eye contact with her, right? Stranger, right? So she's like, why is this little girl, why she keep looking at me, right? And it finally dawned on her that there might be something wrong here. She might keep looking at me because she may be in some type of distress. And she needed help at that, at that point, because she kept making eye contact with her, as to the point where she was like, I need this lady to, to really look at me, to pay attention to me. This child was not with somebody that she should have been with. Right. And this lady was, went to the manager and said, hey, I think there's something wrong here at this table. I think this, this child might be in some trouble. Long story short, they did what they needed to do. And of course, this child was not with somebody that she should have been with. When you are, when you're at, it's just so it's really hard to answer that question.
Yeah.
You won't know until you're actually in it.
So you can get that little funny feeling, it might trigger,
and it's like
that.
If it doesn't feel right, and I tell people all the time, and it's my example I give all the time. It's like if the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, you got to trust that.
Yeah.
Go with that gut feeling. I always say.
Trust that. And then there's the hand signal. So if you see somebody, that's why it's always important to meet people eye to eye. Okay, eye contact. So if you're walking, and it doesn't have to be a child, if it's an adult, and you see somebody and they do this really quickly, they're asking you for help.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay,
was that the hand signal or the eye? Just the eye.
The hand.
Okay.
See how quick that was?
Okay.
Yeah. That was. I'm glad this is good information.
They're asking for help.
Got it now.
Yeah.
Man, that is, I'm learning.
That is great information to know.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
They're asking.
And I'm a person too. I look a person right in the eye. I don't care who you are. when I meet you, I look you right in the eye. Like a lot of people look away. No, I look them in the eye. Just to look them in the eye.
Because
I look them in the
sometimes
eye.
people are looking at you so they can mouth something to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, I teach bystander safety.
Mm-hmm.
Call the professionals. Don't, because you don't know the state of mind of the person they're with. The perpetrator. You don't know if they have a weapon. You don't know what's going on. You don't know that person's state of mind. You don't. And if you're not successful in assisting, then you run the risk of the person that the victim being harmed for asking for help.
Yeah.
Or being punished for asking for help. So people ask, oh, well, what are the signs? What are the signs? Well, that's really hard to say.
It could be many signs. It could be many signs. Yeah.
It's really hard to say. If you know, but let me tell you one main sign. If you know somebody that you know who is with some old man, right? And they got no business with him, that's a sign. How about that? That's a sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Say something. If you see something, say something, right?
Yeah.
I think that we really need to get back to the village mentality.
Oh, yeah.
But it's hard, though. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because you can't say anything to people, kids now. You know,
not these days.
They want to kill you.
They want to kill you these days. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
they want
really
to fight
hard.
and kill you. Yeah,
I get it. I understand. It's really hard. It's really, really, really hard. But if you know, like there's just some kids that I know their parents, and I just know their parents don't know what they doing out here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, it's just, you really, really, really just have to be careful, because let me tell you something, self-care and self-safety is a priority for me. I've been doing this work a long time, but I'm not sacrificing myself, my life, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help, but I'm not sacrificing myself.
Oh, no. Your safety is, your safety and well-being to getting back home is worth anything.
Yeah.
I was also looking at, I watch a lot of, ID Discovery. I mean, I love to watch crime shows, and I always see it pops up on the bottom of whatever crime show they're showing. It said 64,000 Black women are missing right now in the United States right now, and that always that's just my attention.
That's a fact. We only make up 13-14% of the United States population, but we represent over 35 to 40% of the missing. That's insane.
Yeah.
Even Miss Poitier here in Deerfield Beach, I remember a case, Deborah Townsell.
Dodie.
Deborah Townsell.
Was that Dodie?
Deborah Townsell was missing. She went missing somewhere around 1981. And she have never been seen since then. And people have always speculated what happened, but yeah, right here in Deerfield, Deborah Townsell, even Lenora Weaver niece,
Motel 6,
the Green,
right? Was that in Pompano?
Yeah,
the Motel 6.
But you got so many cases that people, and we were trying to bring light to a lot of those cases. We're still trying to get a lot of those people, which we did have Miss Green's family here on our podcast here some months ago. But like I say, Deborah Townsell has been missing since probably 1981. And
people just don't
right
disappear.
Here in Deerfield Beach.
No.
People just do not fall off the face of the earth. They don't disappear.
No.
Something has happened, and people have a right to know what happened to their loved one. They have a right to know what happened. You know.
Yeah.
And so so Saturday, I hope to see you guys this Saturday, January 25th, this Saturday at the Johnny L. Tigner Community Center from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be a great event. It's going to be very impactful. Thank you guys for this opportunity, for allowing me to come on to talk about it.
Anytime.
Again, we're going to be raising awareness about not just human trafficking, but missing Black and brown humans. And we're going to be having, that tough conversation. We have Natalie Wilson flying in from DC. She is one of the co-founders of Black and Missing and a part of the award-winning documentary Black and Missing that is now streaming on HBO. So if you haven't seen it,
I was going to ask you where was it streaming because I've never had a chance to watch it yet. So
I see it.
Yeah, it's not on Netflix. It's just on HBO.
HBO, and I think it might be on Hulu.
Yeah.
Hulu. Okay.
So HBO Max, I'm quite sure. Definitely, I saw it on. That's where I saw it on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it might be on Hulu. Yeah. But if you have an opportunity to click on this link that I put in there, there's also a Lifetime movie that was one of the girls the link. It's about 2 Black girls that went missing. Lifetime did a movie called Black Girl Missing about one of these young girls that's in this link. So if you have an opportunity, check that out on Lifetime and join us this Saturday.
I'm definitely planning on coming out to support you.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Because I broke my foot, but I'll be out there.
I'm trying
to out there.
Yeah. I'm trying to educate myself as much as I can on this because I don't know everything about human trafficking. We sit behind microphone, but we're not experts at a lot of things that we have on our podcast. So this is a learning experience for us as well. Last question, Dr. Sherman Morris says, how do resource constraints, financial or otherwise, impact the scope of effectiveness of anti-trafficking operations in South Florida?
Oh, that's a great question. So, Florida does a good job with the legislative component. Funding is very tricky when it comes to servicing victims of human trafficking because human trafficking is a horrible, devastating crime. And it's not something that you put a Band-Aid on and send people on their way. It is because people experience complex trauma. So it's constantly being raped and violated and brutalized and beaten and degraded over and over and over and over and over again, right? You cannot put a Band-Aid on that and send people on their way, right? You have to treat that, right? In order to treat that type of a level of trauma, that level of complex trauma, it costs money, right? So not only is it shelter, not only is it, clothing, food, but it's a continuum of care of psychological, therapeutic, trauma-informed services. That costs money, right? The Department of Justice, the Office of Victim Services, the feds, they have all of these funds that they allocate for human trafficking, but with those funds, comes stipulations, right? So money is allotted to you for a certain period of time. Right. Okay. So what tends to happen is that they give grants, they give funding to address the issue, right? But they also put a time frame and a time limit, right? So I think the mistake is that Florida makes is I don't think people have a right to tell you how long it should take you to get your life back after you have been forced to sleep with 40, 50 men a day for a period of 6-7 years. Like, what the hell? Like, how long you think it's going to take for me to get myself together from that?
It's going to take a lot of help.
That's a mental.
That's a lifetime.
That's a lot of mental stuff.
Exactly.
Stuff gotta go through, man.
So with the funding can be tricky while it's there.
Right.
It can be tricky, and it's tricky because of the guidelines and the stipulations that are set forth in the federal grants that are offered to address those problems.
But it was a case, before we let you go, it was a case, if I remember correctly, it was a case up in, I believe it was Wisconsin, where this guy had these young ladies down in the basement, I believe, and for years, and I think they were found alive. And this guy, he saw some signs or something like that, and he called the cops, and they went and found.
I know it was in Ohio. Something.
I believe it was
Are you
up
talking
north.
about Cleveland?
The black guy, yeah, the black
Cleveland,
guy,
yeah,
the guy killed himself or whatever.
He killed
Later
himself.
on,
He unalived himself. Yes, he
Right,
unalived
right.
himself.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the Ohio case of that. The two girls.
And those
got
ladies are still
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah, they advocates
Yeah.
out
Oh,
there
yeah.
right now. Yeah.
They'll never
Still
be the
healing.
same again. They'll never be the same
Never
again.
be the same again.
Yeah, and also I wanted to make one point too before you go, Miss Terra. I was reading too, where I just saw too. It's a Tennessee bill could require anti-human trafficking training for tattoo artists.
Yes, because what traffickers do sometimes, this used to be really prevalent years ago, but what happens is that when advocates and law enforcement start to unravel and they get smarter about what the traffickers are doing, they evolve. So back in the day, we knew right away what girls were working for what trafficker because they were all wearing their girls with the same tattoo. But we knew what girls who was working, for who, right? So now I'm not saying they're not branding them now, but it's just like not visible now. Girls are being branded on the inside of their lip, like right here, right?
Oh wow!
They're tattooing them on the inside of their lip. They're tattooing them like under their arm, like right here. They're tattooing them under their breast. You know what I'm saying? So it's not so obvious now, but it's still happening. But yeah, there are tattoo artists who do donate their time to remove those tattoos. But yeah, they're going to be mandating training for tattoo artists because traffickers will take their girls, underage girls, because I don't know about Tennessee, but I know 18 and Florida, you're supposed to be 18 to get a tattoo. And if you're under 18, you have to have a parent with you, a parent consent, right? So, you have traffickers that will take girls into a tattoo parlor and tattoo have these girls tattooed. But my thing is, why are you this one dude? Who are these girls to you? And why are you bringing all these girls in here at the same time to get tattooed?
Right.
These are questions. And that is why that's a training issue, right? Because these are like red flags, right? So as a tattoo artist, you're like, hey, hold up, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? Who are these girls to you? And how old are these girls? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's their ID? Okay, are you their guardian? Or do you have the authority to have them tattooed? So that is why, and that's good that Tennessee is mandating that. I think that's great.
That's good. That's good. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just see the article that you pulled up over there.
Yeah.
So,
I was reading that.
Yeah, because they will bring them in the tattoo shops and get them, to get them tattooed. And tattoo artists need to start, just like we train doctors and nurses. Traffickers will take their girls or their victims to ERs and to hospitals. And I train nurses and I train the ERs, the EDs. Listen, if you feel like something is wrong, if you don't know what to do, tell them they need to get an x-ray because they can't go in the x-ray room. Only 2 people out in there. Get them away from them. So you'll have an opportunity now
to talk.
That's right.
To talk. You know what I'm saying? So that training is very, very important.
That's good advice. Yeah. That's some good advice. Yeah, you're right. Connect, collaborate, learn on Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Johnny L. Tigner Center annual event. They're going to have Miss Natalie Wilson. She has a documentary out called Black and Missing. She's going to be the speaker at the Johnny L. Tigner Center Saturday, January 25th, 2025.
I'm somebody.
I'm somebody.
11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come on out and join us.
Yes, and they're gonna have
join Miss Terra
corn out there. So please come out and support Jumorrow Poitier. She is doing an outstanding job in this community, in this county, in this Tri-County area. Thank you for your hard work and your dedication that you do here in South Florida. And nobody is doing what you're doing.
Your sister says she's proud of you too.
Destiny Humphrey says, I'm proud of you, sissy. So yes, thank you, Destiny, for joining
my
us.
cheerleaders. And we're going to be raising light. We're going to be raising light and shining light on Sophie Reeder's case. We cannot forget about Sophie. Can't forget about Sophie.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I need to know more about it myself. And
we're going to try to connect with the family
on this podcast too. So thank you, Jumorrow Terra
Anything else
Poitier.
you want to say, Miss Poitier, before you go?
Just guys, keep what you're doing. I really, again, appreciate the platform that you guys have created here, and it's so needed in this community. And thank you so much for having me. And I need to see the city of Deerfield to come out Saturday.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Right. Well, we're gonna blast it out. We're gonna hop off.
It's a free event. It's free. It's free.
Event. Yeah, you don't have to pay.
Yeah.
So when we hop off of here, we're gonna come right back with the pop-up podcast. We want to thank Jumorrow Terra Poitier for coming on and educating us on human trafficking, and then to talk about her event on Saturday, January 25th, annual event with Miss Natalie Wilson at the Johnny L. Tignan Center from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come out and support Miss Poitier. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you and your professionalism, and always welcome here on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night. We'll be right back with the pop-up podcast.